Developer of Paradise Island Lighthouse and Beach Club Toby Smith is crying foul on the government. He said government failed to honor an agreement made for the proposed $2 million restoration of the Paradise Island Lighthouse. Instead, he said government has given Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines rights to the land that he acquired through a signed lease for Crown land in the Colonial Beach area.
Government needs to honor the agreements that we have in place. Government needs to put their money where their mouth is when they say that they're going to fast track and accelerate Bahamian projects in the pipeline. Government, they wish to be called, the members of parliament wish to be called honorable or most honorable. I need them to honor the agreements that are in place.
Smith says he has spent 8 years begging the government for acquisition of the land on Paradise Island. It was finally granted and approved by the Bahamas Investment Authority. He then signed a memorandum of understanding with the government earlier this year, only to find out that government later granted the land to Royal Caribbean Cruise Line.
I was called into the Office of Prime Minister on the 27th of February by the Bahamas Investment Authority, and I sat down with Joshua Sears, Candia Ferguson, and the Attorney General, Carl Bethel. And while I have a Crown Land lease agreement in place, Carl Bethel basically referred to that as being not worth the piece of paper it's written on, nor is my Bahamas Investment Authority letter, and nor is my memorandum of understanding. Mm-hmm. And in the meeting with Carl Bethel, he basically told me, no, we're just going to unilaterally shove you down the end of the beach. And maybe, then people from RCL that are going over to RCL's beach club will, perhaps walk down by you and patronize you.
As a Bahamian investor, Smith feels slighted and believes government favors foreign investors over Bahamians. He says this treatment is unfair.
Why is it that the Bahamian government is favoring a foreign investor that's just Johnny-come-lately? They, as far as I know, they've put no formal application into lands and surveys, which is what Bahamians have to do. I've waited 8 years, which is what Bahamians are subject to do. And then the Attorney General tells me that my agreements aren't worth the piece of paper that it's written on. I think it sends a very dangerous message, especially in these trying economic times, to demonstrate to potential foreign investors and to domestic investors that the Bahamian government does not honor agreements when they've made an offer and that's been accepted. A lot of other Bahamian entrepreneurs, free enterprises that through their process of trying to bring their product or company to market, that they're waiting on government for something. And we're all put on this merry-go-round, on this roundabout, and just driven around between government agents in agencies in circles. And for me, I've had to go through 14 government agencies. I've been through more than 100 government employees, and these are top positions from Prime Minister, Permanent Secretary, Deputy Prime Minister, acting directors, etc. 100 people to try and get to the point where I am now, whereas foreign companies just go to the Bahamas Investment Authority, red carpet treatment, and they get everything all straight, dandy, and not have to go through the same process that I have to go through. And I think that's not balanced and that's not fair.
Smith says the project would create 40 full-time jobs for Bahamians, and the construction of a marina would be accessible to both tourists and Bahamians.
Initially, it's going to be 40 Bahamians for the construction phase, and that would be directly with me. But then outside of that, there's also jobs for architects, marine engineering, marine planning, etc. Then there'll also be indirect opportunities where, for instance, the small boat ferry operators, the tour guides, taxi guides, these kind of things. I'm looking at collaborating with other companies, event planners, people that do concerts, these kind of things, so that we Bahamians can enjoy our beach.
He said he is prepared to fight tooth and nail to complete the renovation of the lighthouse and construct the beach club, to which he has already received authorization. Attorney General Carl Bethel recently told a local daily that in order to accommodate the Royal Caribbean development, Smith was asked to move further to the west. Bethel said Smith has an equal share in half of the best beach and higher land to put his development next to Royal Caribbean and their thousands of tourists. Bethel said government has done more than enough to ensure Smith's project is not prejudiced by the $50 million Royal Caribbean development. It remains to be seen if either parties will compromise. For CSJ Report, I'm Sharika Johnson.